Now, obviously, a big part of the Microsoft 365 environment for an employee is dealing with email as well as dealing with files. So I want to look at three main services that sort of complement each other involving dealing with these particular considerations. So number one, you want to think about email. And there is the sort of like the server service side, and then there is the client side. The client side being Microsoft Outlook, and then the server service side being Microsoft Exchange or Microsoft Exchange Online in this case. So in the Microsoft 365 service world, we have licensing for all of this, and the licensing is going to be managed under a billing, and then we'll go down here to licenses and we can see what licenses are available. Now, in your case, if you're doing this stuff with me, you may not see the exact same licenses that I have because I teach a lot of different courses and I have various licenses for that. But ultimately, this one right here, Office 365 E5, this particular license is providing my user here, which is John Christopher, me. It's providing the licenses for supporting Microsoft Exchange Online, as well as having access to Outlook, the Microsoft apps, all of that stuff. So this user is getting all of these items here. If I actually scroll down, we can see all these various apps that are available. All right. Office for the web, so that's the web version of the Office apps. And then let's go a little bit further down here. Microsoft Yammer, Whiteboard. So you see lots of different apps that are available to do, lots of different apps that are available for this user. All right. Scrolling up a little bit, we have apps for enterprise. That's the downloadable version of the Office apps. So that would include Outlook as a downloadable version, whereas Office on the web would include the online version of Office. If I wanted to take that away, I could just by unchecking and then saving. All right. So this gives the user also an Exchange mailbox. From an admin perspective, I can manage Exchange Online as well, which I'll show you. But as far as the client side goes for Microsoft Outlook, if we go over to Microsoft365.com, this would be the user portal. All right, a user can download and install the Microsoft 365 apps by going right here. They can download it right here. Click this, and there'll be a little installer. It'll take a few minutes, but it'll actually install the apps directly onto the machine. All right. Or if they want to use Office on the web, you've got your apps right over here that are available. Here is Outlook, right? So I can just click that, open that up, and then I've now got access to my email, just like this is very similar to the actual downloaded version of Outlook. So I have my inbox and sent items and all of that stuff, checking my email and all of that fun stuff. Now, from an admin standpoint, this is all managed. The mailbox and all that is managed through Exchange Online. If we go back over to portal.microsoft.com, we're going to click Show All, and then we're going to go down to Exchange, and that's going to bring us into the Exchange Admin Center, also known as the EAC. Okay, so the Exchange Admin Center, this is where admins can manage everything. Right, so I can go right here under recipients and click mailboxes, and I can see the mailboxes that I have available. Now keep in mind, if you're doing this with me, you may not see the same mailboxes as me, and that does not matter. All right, the one thing that's different, if you have experience with the on-premise version of Exchange, you might recall that you could go into the EAC in the on-premise version, the server version that you install on a physical server, and you could add mailboxes and things like that. In Microsoft 365 with Exchange Online, you don't actually add mailboxes here. The way that a user gets a mailbox is you give them a license. So the reason that these users have a mailbox, a user mailbox, is because they have a license, right? Actually, right now, the only user in my environment that's got a license is John Christopher. The rest of these at one point had a license, and then I took that license away because I have to pay for my subscription. So I kind of, my free trial period has ran out. And in your case, if you're doing this with me, you may have a trial period, so you don't have to pay anything. But it isn't too expensive either. I have all these licenses that I kind of play around with, and I might spend maybe I think it might be like $40 a month for me. So it works out fine for me. But I just have this one user that's been given a license. So again, if we go back over to licenses, we see that John Christopher has been given this Office 365 license. If I had more licenses, I could get more licenses by going up to the marketplace and purchasing more licenses. I could give those to more users, and they would each have mailboxes. So that's how users get mailboxes. In the EAC, from the Exchange Admin Center, we can control all of the capabilities and all of that of Microsoft Exchange. I actually do have a Microsoft Exchange course you can check out if you really, really want to get down and dirty with Exchange. There's even a certification you can get for Exchange Online. But and of course you can check all that out at examlabpractice.com/courses. But if you look right here, there's this thing called public folders. Now this used to be the place where, and this goes all the way back to the 1990s, where users would share data. You would have what's called public folders in Outlook, and users could share data. Like if you were a salesperson, like I have this thing called Sales Docs. And what would happen is the public folder would get an email address, like salesdocs@examlabpractice.com. If anybody emailed that, like an attachment or something, it would stick that in this thing called a public folder. Now, again, this goes back to the 1990s. This is kind of the old way of managing files, sort of a online way of managing files and sharing files. Now, Microsoft kind of frowns upon public folders. You can still use public folders for sharing data within Outlook and all of that. You could still use public folders, but they frown upon using public folders now. And the reason is because they now want users to start using OneDrive for Business. So if we go back over to portal.microsoft.com, and let's just start from the beginning here, portal.microsoft.com. If we go there, all right, we can drop down where it says Show All, and you're going to see SharePoint, all right? And with SharePoint and OneDrive for Business are connected. SharePoint gives us sort of a front-end website, but each user also has their own OneDrive account. Part of the deal with having an Office 365 or a Microsoft 365 license is that users can share their own files, store their own files, and basically back up their files into their OneDrive account. SharePoint is a front-end website that allows users to post files linked to their OneDrive account. Now, I'm not really going to dig into SharePoint in this video. I just threw that out there. But I want to focus more on OneDrive as opposed to SharePoint. So if we go back over to Microsoft365.com, you're going to notice, if I click this little, as they call the waffle icon, you can see I have a OneDrive button I can click on here. This is going to bring me into my OneDrive account where I can share files if I want to. So users can share files. Now the other thing is, if you're using a Windows operating system, like a client version of Windows operating system, you can have a OneDrive folder on your file system, and as you put files in that OneDrive folder, it synchronizes it out to the cloud. This acts as a backup for all of the files that you put in OneDrive. But you have a local copy and you have a cloud copy. If you change the local copy, it changes the cloud copy. If you change the cloud copy, it changes the local copy. If you're familiar with Dropbox, it's kind of the same idea as that. All right, same kind of concept. So if you look up, like if you go and you do a quick search for the, let's say Office 365, we'll say versus Microsoft 365, you can see, let's go down here and actually let's look up licenses for this. Just Google search Office 365 licenses. So you'll notice that it's compare all Microsoft 365 plans, formerly Office 365. We click that. Let's just go there. And yeah, let's look at For Business. as opposed to home. All right, you can see that they offer you, even at the most basic level, you get 1 terabyte of cloud storage per user. That's pretty nice. Each user at your company gets a terabyte of storage for OneDrive. So that means they can throw anything they want in their OneDrive. It goes to the cloud, backs it up to the cloud. The other thing that's nice is it does versioning, so it'll keep track of versions of the files as they get changed. And so if you ever needed to go back in time on it, you can. The other thing you get is a recycling bin. So if you delete files, you can go and view the recycling bin, and you can undelete files if you need to. Makes it easy to share files. Again, it also links to SharePoint. So if you've got a front-end SharePoint website that you're working on, maybe as a project, you've got a project going on involving SharePoint, that makes all that readily available. Okay. And again, this is just I'm not really diving into SharePoint in this video. I'm just throwing that out there. Okay. So that's the idea of OneDrive, and OneDrive is now really meant to be the way that we share our files in email as well, as opposed to doing the public folder method, because the public folder method is an older style method that doesn't really give a lot of control. It doesn't give a lot of the power over to the user because it doesn't synchronize things locally, and it also doesn't give admins as much control either to to control and give rights out like they can with OneDrive. All right, so that is the idea of utilizing OneDrive, and hopefully now you have a better understanding of kind of how Outlook fits together into Exchange, and then how OneDrive helps with managing user files.